parents and coaches. Do you wish you had a safe social media platform for your youth athletes? Fortunately for you, there's a revolutionary new app that helps with just that. Introducing Small Player, Big Play. Small Player, Big Play app provides young athletes, parents, and coaches a user-friendly sports social media platform. The app allows users to connect with friends, make new friends, create groups, text, chat, and post pictures and videos of you and your teammates participating in your favorite sport or activity. To begin, users can simply download and sign up for the app using an email account. Younger users have the ability to sign up using their smartphone and a parent's email address. From there, users can begin to interact and engage with other users of the app. Small Player Big Play app also gives users the ability to live stream full games and events. You can live stream your event so that friends, family, or anyone in the world can see you in action. Users can also share posts from the app to their other social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter. What are you waiting for? Get in the game and share your love of sports with the world. Download the Small Player Big Play app today.
Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show!
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which has been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
Kansas City 31, San Francisco 20. Mahomes takes the snap. He's just going to throw it long for Demarcus Robinson. It is going to use up all the time. The game is over, and the Chiefs' kingdom has firmly planted its flag on top of football's highest summit. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions of Super Bowl 54.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffauf. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Justin Raffauf.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Like you said, it was a weird day in football, and nothing.
It was interesting.
Yeah, nothing more. You and I we joked because there were a number of times where we did text stuff back and forth to each other, but there was a number of times where both of us today were like, I'm just going to hold that thought till later, and we'll focus on it. I'm sure it'll come up later tonight.
Like we say, nearly every week, Justin and I have these conversations anyways.
Yes.
Why not put it out there for the public? And that's what we're going to do tonight. Justin and I haven't talked about a lot of these things other than a text here or there, but there was a lot of stuff that happened, a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of weird stuff, and we're going to dive into all of it, but since we're in the month of December, happy holidays, everyone.
Absolutely.
We're all decorated here. I got my Merry Christmas banner behind me. I got my tree off to the side. You can't see it on the camera. There we go. Nice little Christmas tree shot, full with Penn State, Philadelphia sports, except the Eagles, Star Wars, video games, Ghostbusters, obviously all of my favorites. And I do want to congratulate Penn State winning game number 2, a little win streak going on.
And to be honest, I know it sounds silly because they are 2-5. So don't get me wrong. It's not like, oh, great, they're 2-5, but
I'd say they're one of the best 2-5 teams in the country, though.
Right, and I think there's a lot to say that they didn't just pack it in, because they easily could have at 0-5 could have easily packed it in. But instead, they've put it together, and they're getting contributions from some young guys, which is awesome. Just kind of hopefully continue to build momentum into next year. So hopefully they can get these things going. I was talking again yesterday with someone. I'm telling you, like, you look at the way things go. This is exactly why, and I am going to do my best to keep this in mind in the years moving forward. This is why you schedule the winnable games, the games you absolutely should win those first few weeks of the season in college football. You don't get a true preseason. You don't get scrimmages. You don't get any of that stuff. And Penn State got their hearts broken on the first weekend and then got beat by a better team, the best team in the Big Ten.
Right, yeah. No one thinks otherwise.
And then it just carried over. Like, they had dreams of making the playoffs this year. And then next thing you know, their hopes got severely damaged in week 1. And then they just got steamrolled in week 2.
And then we're out of it already for week 3.
Right.
And then their season was essentially over.
Right.
When you start 0-3.
Right. And so because of that, like, I don't think it's an excuse, but like, we talk about this all the time. You see it in high school sports, you see it in college sports more and more, where it's just like, yeah, sometimes that mental aspect is really tough. And it is different. It is different when you start talking about all these things, and you start talking about, again, it gets super complicated, but man, all these college kids in a college situation trying to, get, you see all these games canceled every week, all this stuff. It was interesting. Somebody brought up a good point. Like, yes, the NFL has been close to disaster a few times, with the Titans, with the Ravens, spots, the Raiders a few times, like, there's been some close calls. But they haven't had to cancel a game yet, which is absurd.
Postpone, sure.
Right. Move literally a week. But,
right, yeah.
But I'm like, and they've changed schedules in the middle of the year. Like, oh, you're not playing this team next week anymore. You're playing these games. Like,
yeah, well, it happened to my Dolphins.
Right. So, like, I mean, they've gotten as close as they could. But somebody brought up the point, like, now they're like, look, I'm not trying to say that college kids aren't invested in it and that they're not worried about it, but, like, they're not losing their scholarships. Like, their point was more, the professional players know, like, if I do something I'm not supposed to do and we don't get to play, I don't get my check.
Lose my job.
Right.
Well,
like,
yeah.
And so they're like, they weren't making the point as much about college as they were about professionals being like, there's a lot more at stake, like, in terms of the literal sense, like, I guess, or maybe more of the tangible things, I guess, for some of the pro players. It was a discussion about that specific thing. But I'm proud the way that Penn State has kind of come back. There are moments where they look like they're starting to find some of their identity, like being able to run the ball. I get frustrated at times when they don't run it more, but the fact that some of the young guys are getting in there, Kevon Lee was looking good, Devin Ford was looking good. They played with so much more confidence this week than they had all year. And the defense.
Parker Washington.
Oh, yes. Parker Washington, some of the other guys, Isaac Lutz stepping up, making some plays.
Keandre Lambert-Smith,
yes, yeah.
And Brenton Strange.
Right. I mean, they're getting guys and playing young guys at linebacker and stuff like so. I mean,
I think a lot of it at the beginning of the year was a mental and attitude issue. They were deflated and they couldn't overcome it, which comes down to motivational aspects of the coaching staff and also heart and pride of the players.
Right.
But it took a while. They've seemed to have righted the ship. I mean, beating Michigan at Michigan is huge. I know there were no fans and blah, 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 but you beat a team maybe you shouldn't have beat, I'm not sure. Then you come back and beat a team you should. It just gets me thinking of all the games that we already talked about. Coulda, shoulda, woulda beat Indiana. Probably where it wasn't going to beat Ohio State anyways.
I'll never change my mind. They beat Indiana.
Right,
but
true.
It shouldn't have been in that spot.
No, they shouldn't have let it get there,
right.
But even so, they still beat them.
Yes,
if you watch football, they beat them. The Maryland game is the biggest one that I'm like, what were you doing?
Right.
Like, that is unacceptable that week. Then week 4 was 4 at Nebraska then?
Yeah.
And then 5 was Iowa?
Yep.
Again, there's a chance, I believe, for a rematch with Nebraska. I'd be interested in that because I think Penn State can and should beat them. I don't know what to say about Iowa.
I think they should have, but I'll give that one as a toss-up because Iowa Penn State is tough virtually every year.
Every year, yeah.
That Iowa team, from looking shaky the first couple weeks, has looked good since then. So, like, that's a legit Iowa team. Like, but yes, the Maryland one, they should have beat Maryland. They should have beat Nebraska. They should have beat Indiana. They aren't better than Ohio State, and they aren't. Well,
I don't know if they're better than Iowa.
Right, I think they are, but I can't really make a strong argument based on evidence that I've seen this year.
Well, and just look at the other side of the coin. If Indiana loses to Penn State, does their season just fall apart right there?
Well, and that's what I've said a million times. If Penn State wins that first game, like if they make the correct call and say he was short of the goal line, and Penn State wins,
which he was,
I still think they lose to Ohio State, but I think they win their other games. Like, I think it was mostly...
I don't think they lose to Maryland, that's for
right,
sure.
I think it was mostly mental, like the anguish of just...
defeated.
Yeah.
They're just mentally defeated.
Right. And I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, I give up. It's just that edge. And that edge is the difference between going out there and handling a team like Rutgers that you're supposed to. And, I mean, the defense was dominant in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Versus going out there and watching Maryland literally run the same play over and over for long touchdowns.
Yeah, just inexcusable, unacceptable. But I mean, I don't want to touch on college too long. We got a lot of NFL to talk about.
I know.
Generally, the Navy I wear is for Penn State, but the Navy I'm wearing tonight is for Navy, because this coming Saturday, December 12th, is the Army Navy game, which I believe is it the 120th meeting?
It's up there. I
It's up there. I can't remember if this is the 120th exactly. It's right around that mark, but it was supposed to be played in Philadelphia, and we were possibly going to it, very close to. I mean, last December, like, I literally had my mom write in her calendar for 2020 to have my dad be off on December 12th because we're going to the Army-Navy game. That was the plan. But obviously 2020 happened, and the game isn't even in Philadelphia. It is at West Point, which is pretty cool because it hasn't been on one of the military campuses since the 40s.
Right. I've been to a game at West Point. I've never been to an Army.
Could you imagine going to an Army-Navy game at West Point?
That would be incredible.
Or at Navy Marine Stadium in Annapolis?
So I've been by Navy Marine Stadium because I've been to the Naval Academy. Well, we were talking about this earlier.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I've been to the pool a number of times. So I've been on the Naval Academy campus or base or whatever you want to refer to it as. When we would go in, we'd drive by the stadium every time. But.
So I've got my 2020 Army-Navy swag on. You can see my favorite Army-Navy helmet behind me over my shoulder. I've got last year's on the mixer board, and I put one on Justin's desk to commemorate the game this coming Saturday, because obviously Justin is the husband of an Army vet, so I know where his loyalties lie. It's okay. We're used to not rooting for the same football team all the time. But yeah,
rarely are they actually rivals.
That's true. Right. That's true. I mean, these are, one of the greatest rivalries in football, Army-Navy, and I've been cheering for Navy as long as I can remember, and it's gotten really big over the last probably 6 years or so. But obviously, like many of us, have family from both sides. Both my grandfathers served in the Army in World War II. I have cousins who were in... I didn't
know that because you had some uncles that were...
Right, yeah. I have cousins that were Army National Guard. I have a cousin that was Navy. I have uncles that were Navy. I have a late aunt that was Navy. So there's a lot of pride and traditions with both, but for some reason I've always leaned towards Navy. I guess if I was ever to enter a service, it was going to be Coast Guard. That's the one that I always leaned towards. I remember that. But Navy was next, so that's why I've kind of always leaned Navy. And it's just a fun competition because obviously anytime Army-Navy comes together, all their pregame stuff is absolutely amazing. Yes. I remember the video last year. So great to watch. So that game's coming up. Unfortunately, we are not there like we had hoped, but sometime in the future, that's the plan.
Yeah.
So we'd like to go to it in Philadelphia,
which cool.
Won't be back there for 2 years because I believe it's in Baltimore next year. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But enough of the college football talk. Let's get to the professional games. And, well, there was no Thursday night, so we don't need to start there because of all the COVID delays and whatnot. There is a game going on right now, which is Chiefs-Broncos. I'm trying to bring the video in and out.
Last I saw, the Broncos were up 3-0.
I believe that's where we're still at. They're in a commercial break at the moment, but there are 2 more games. Yes, it's still 3-0. Denver just kicked the field goal and is kicking off to Kansas City nearing the end of the first quarter. We have 2 games left after tonight, 1 tomorrow and 1 Tuesday.
I thought
Oh, no, 3 games. There's 2 tomorrow and 1 on Tuesday. So there's the weird 5 o'clock game tomorrow,
right?
Which is the
Steelers-Redskins
game.
Steelers-Washington.
Oh, right. Sorry. Steelers football game. Like literally Steelers against the football team. So Pittsburgh-Washington is tomorrow at 5. Then tomorrow night at the normal slot is Buffalo at San Francisco.
At Arizona.
In Arizona. And then Tuesday, we finally get Baltimore-Dallas.
Just think if you were to a year ago, just see the schedule for...
Right, and have no context. For nothing.
For this past Wednesday through this Tuesday, no context, just you see Steelers-Ravens playing on a Wednesday night.
No, not Wednesday night. Wednesday afternoon. It started at 3:40.
Right. Wednesday at 3:40 in the afternoon. No Thursday night game. No Saturday games. Like, in December, so you're like, okay, like, you probably would have thought, oh, conference champion. Well, no, you would have had big college football rivalry weekend this weekend. But then you'd have some games on Sunday. You'd have 2 Monday night games and a Tuesday night game. You'd be like, what is going on?
But wait. What happened to the Thursday primetime game the week before?
Exactly.
What's happening?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, really, without context, you would be scratching your head and be like, man, the NFL really is trying to take over everything, aren't they?
Right, yeah.
I mean, they are, but it is what it is. So, yeah, NFL Week 13, interesting. Lots of interesting games today. I'm going to stop illegally broadcasting this game and pull up the scores so that we can properly talk about everything that happened today. I'll try to bring the game back up again in a little bit, but don't have to start on the Thursday night because there was no Thursday night, so we'll start with the Saturday afternoon games, and let's see which one NFL.com lists first. Looks like we're starting with Saints-Falcons. So New Orleans, the number 1 seed in the NFC. They go to Atlanta, second time in 3 weeks. The teams have played. Taysom Hill still at quarterback for New Orleans, and they're able to hold on. It looked a little dicey there at the end, but New Orleans beat Atlanta 21-16. New Orleans improves to 10-2, and they clinch a playoff berth.
Yeah, so this is one where I picked New Orleans to win. I almost wavered and went with the Falcons.
I did too, but I did not.
I didn't pull the trigger on it.
I didn't either.
Mostly because I was like, don't fall into the trap of thinking that beating the Raiders last week by that much actually means that they're that good.
As we saw today.
I also thought that while the Saints won last week, it was about as unimpressive as a 2-score win as you could get against the Broncos last week, considering the Broncos didn't have a quarterback.
Right.
I was like, the Saints are going to rebound. They're going to play like a good team. They know that, like, I figured there'd be some kind of, like, hot take. Not, that's probably a bad term, but just there'd be some, like, momentum to, like, oh, the Falcons are going to get them here. No. The Saints did enough. Taysom Hill actually threw his first 2 touchdown passes of his career.
Congratulations.
Since his time at BYU.
Like 7 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. So, the thing about the Saints is they're finding a way to do it again, with a backup quarterback, and the nice thing is, honestly, they don't need to rush Breeze back. Not that they would, but like they don't need to rush him back, which is good when you break 11 ribs like that.
Yeah,
that's insane.
I think back to Coach Dom's nearly 2 years ago now, when he broke, was it 2 or 3? I think something like that. It was a lower number than what Drew Brees broke.
Yes,
and he was in pain for months.
Yeah,
and he wasn't taking hits to the body after the fact, trying to return to his professional role. Is not as a quarterback in the NFL. We appreciate and respect everything he does, but it's not
absolutely.
taking a beating
Right.
in a professional football game. So when they said that he would only miss like 3 weeks, I'm like, I don't think so.
I forget which former NFL quarterback posted a thing about it. But he posted this long thing.
I know who you're talking about. Was it Sage Rosenfels?
It was Sage Rosenfels. Yeah. And he said he broke one rib, one here. And he's like, it was excruciatingly painful. Just because he's like, you're sitting there, it hurts. You're lying down, it hurts. You breathe, it hurts.
Right. Everything is in
everything
pain.
Just hurts all the time. And he's like, that was one. He's like, and it still acts up on him. He's like, it never really gets back.
Because they can't cast your body like that.
And the cartilage in between your ribs, that heals incredibly slowly / doesn't really heal that well because it has virtually no blood supply. That's why it's good at what it does. But it's just, it's incredible to think that he's going to be back at all.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, is he coming back before the playoffs? Do they need him back before the playoffs?
Well, the report today is that he's ahead of schedule and could come back week 14 for the Eagles.
Next week. I don't think that's necessary.
I don't know why you do that.
After what we've seen recently, and we're going to get into the Eagles.
Well, it becomes a thing of they need that. They don't need. They would benefit greatly from having the bye. And as the 1 seed, if they've got a game to play with, I don't know, that you really bring Breeze back before that. But, you have to realize, I know they've won the 2 games, that they've had without him, but, they're not winning a Super Bowl without him.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So, you have to figure they clinched a playoff spot. So, if they, at worst, if they're if we just get in the playoffs, we can win with Breeze. Even if they lost the division, which they have the tiebreaker with the Bucs because they beat them both times. But even if they lost the division, and what are they up? 2 games on the Bucs or 3?
They're up 3 because the Bucs are 7-5 and they're 10-2.
And they have so they're essentially 4 games up.
Yeah, they're essentially 4 games up
with 4 games left.
Yeah, 4 games left to play.
Right.
So really, if they win one more game,
if they beat the Eagles, they should clinch the division.
Yeah, clinch a playoff spot, clinch a
and
top 4
let's
seed.
Be honest, they should be able to beat the Eagles without Drew Brees. Right. And
is it in Philly or is it in New Orleans? Because if it's in New Orleans, absolutely.
Well, I don't know because the Eagles are on the road today. It doesn't mean they're home next week, but I just. But the thing is too, I know you could do this every week when you look at it, but I don't want to put him in there with Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and all those guys coming back from broken ribs, because the wrong thing happens, and next thing you know, he's done for the year, and so are your shots at a Super Bowl.
Right.
So I don't bring him back yet. Why?
No, I don't bring him back next week.
Why?
There's no reason to play him next week. None.
I understand if you want him to play some before you get to the playoffs. You don't want him off 2 months between games necessarily. But
no, you want him to knock the rust off a little. But I don't know if I bring him back before week 16.
No, I'd probably bring him back week 16, let him play.
Then week 17, play a little.
Right, play the first
half.
Couple series or something, and then go and kind of give that up to him too. We'll see how it goes, and then play Taysom Hill and play Jameis Winston actually because Taysom is going to play other spots.
Right.
So I know we got a lot into that, but
that game featured one team that had a coach already fired, and obviously Sean Payton's not being fired.
No.
This next game features a team that already had their coach fired, and unfortunately one that may see the coach get fired, and having ties to a local rival of our high school. It's disappointing. I like to see the Pennsylvania guys, Pennsylvania roots, have success, but the Bears are not good for the second straight year. After they surprised some people, in Matt Nagy's first year, they looked good in 2018, but have not been able to do anything in 2019 or 2020. And today they blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead to the Detroit Lions,
including what were they doing throwing the ball inside their own 10? At the end of the game, I know they're trying to aggressively get the first down because they don't want to, but Trubisky gets sacked from the side he's facing, it fumbles the ball, and then Detroit recovers inside the 10. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, and then they drive down the field, and I love Allen Robinson.
I know.
I love Allen Robinson. He stepped out. Now, like, he was trying to get there, and I think he thought he had it, but it's almost like he realized it as he was stepping out, like, oh, I might not have it, and stuck the ball out again. And then, okay, so you're still a 4th and short, and they stuffed David Montgomery. They stuff him.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like, it wasn't close. They were closer on the Allen Robinson step out than they were on,
yes, you're right.
on David Montgomery. Yep. So, like, you still had your shot to get it. It wasn't like, oh, that cost them the game. They did multiple things down the stretch to cost themselves that game. That's the problem. They did multiple things to cost themselves the game, and they've done that a few times.
So,
yeah.
I didn't realize this, and I saw someone mention it somewhere that the Bears were in danger of losing 6 straight. And I was like, wait, there was no way the Bears were 5-1 at one point. No way. And I had to look it up. Like, it's one of those things, like, I'm wondering why did I doubt that? Because why would a mainstream sports site, sportscaster, like, make that up?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Or get it confused? But I was like, no, I don't believe you.
Right. There's no way they were 5-1 and in first place in the NFC.
No way they were 5-1. No
and
way.
They were.
And they were. But how long ago does it feel to think back to October 8th when they beat the Buccaneers by a point?
So, like, oh my God.
I mean, now they had to win the next week against the Panthers, but that's their last win, October 18th.
But that was the game, wasn't it, where Brady thought it was 3rd down?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a Thursday night game, wasn't it?
It was, because then I think on Friday night is when LeBron won the NBA title, Friday or Saturday, and it was his 4th because everybody superimposed LeBron with the 4, holding up the 4 because Brady had that 4 look like, isn't it 4th down?
Oh yeah. So yeah, the Bears started 5-1, beating the Lions, which they shouldn't have. We talked about a lot today.
Yeah.
Then they beat the Giants, the Falcons, lost to the Colts, beat the Bucks by a point, and then beat the Panthers by a touchdown. Right. Since then, they lost by 14 to the Rams, in overtime to the Saints, a touchdown to the Titans, 6 points to the Vikings, 16 points to the Packers, and then blow a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter to lose by 4 to the Detroit Lions, who just fired their coach.
And today's the bad one. Every one of those other teams, including the Vikings, has a shot at being, every one of those other teams is going to make the playoffs. The Vikings have a shot.
They were trying to give it away today.
They did everything they could to give it away today. And I'm not saying the Vikings are that good of a team, but those are all good teams, but the Bears are finding ways to lose games.
And that was at home too.
Yeah.
It was at Soldier Field.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I don't know what they're doing.
I mean, I don't think Nagy gets fired in the middle of the season, at least not yet.
Well, I don't really know the advantage, especially this year. You can't go out and get your college guy earlier, really.
Right, and the Falcons already did it. The Lions already did it.
Right.
I'm not happy. I don't really care about the NFC North, the Bears, the Lions, whatever. I'm only happy because I picked the Lions. So when the Lions came back today, I was happy. The Bears. I'm 9-2.
Wow.
Which I thought was very good.
I've lost 3.
I thought 9-2 was good, but then of course my uncle Rich, is 10-1 right now, and I believe his only loss is the one that everyone I think lost.
Okay.
So far, sorry, not everyone, just me. Cleveland, Tennessee. I was all against Cleveland.
Oh yeah, I was too. I went.
So I'll get to that. A bunch of people did take Cleveland.
Yeah.
But I was not. I was not on that one at all. But I lucked out with the Detroit one. I knew the Vegas Jets one wouldn't matter either way because everyone took Vegas.
Right, exactly.
But that one worked in my favor for sure, and I don't know that anyone took the Giants. Apparently taking New England was a big deal. I took New England.
I took New England.
But my dad, who took the Chargers, was surprised that I had taken New England.
So, I get it. The Chargers have been one of those that have been better, but we talk all the time about a team that's finding ways to lose games. And rookie quarterbacks don't beat Bill Belichick. I know it's not the same this year, but they're now 5-21 against Bill Belichick.
I talked to my dad today, who actually, he's with you. He says, go Army.
That's right.
That's
right.
I don't know if that's just because he knows how much I've gotten into rooting for Navy over the last 6 or 7 years. But
an enemy of my enemy. Right?
But he told me when I posted my profile picture, he said he's pulling for the alma mater, or if you want to call it that, of the grandfathers of his dad and his father-in-law being Army vets. But he told me, besides the Chargers being favored against the Patriots, which I only figured out because Paul Roberts tweeted it out when they were losing 45-0, that Linsanity at work, he's going to get fired too.
And that might come soon.
That may come soon. But he also told me, and I told, again, kind of like the Bears thing, he told me that the 49ers were favored over the Bills.
See, that doesn't
And it was only like
much.
1 to 2 points, which is mostly because it's in San Francisco.
Right.
It's in Arizona. But I just, I couldn't believe it when he told me that.
That's
I just
odd.
was really surprised because I know San Francisco isn't awful.
Right.
But Buffalo is seen as the top tier of the second tier, if that makes any sense. Like,
right.
I feel like Kansas City and Pittsburgh's at the top, and then Buffalo is probably everyone else's third choice.
Right.
So
and
it just surprised me that they'd be favored, even though it's on the road in prime time. I don't know. That one just kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah, that one that catches me off guard a little bit too. Yeah, I forget kind of where we were, but just like
we have been talking Bears-Lions,
right? The Bears,
Matt Nagy. I mean, unless he turns it around and can win like the next 4 weeks and maybe sneak into the playoffs, I don't know that he's going to make it through.
No,
make it to a fourth year, I should say.
And I don't know what the answer there is either, because you have
quarterback.
Well, yeah, but you just signed...
They bailed on Trubisky. Foles hasn't worked out.
Yeah, but like I don't know what the fix is. Like, what do you do? Do you just? I guess you got to go and get one. Like that's what Arizona did. Arizona was like, "Hey, we're starting over. We're just going to get him."
Yeah.
Like that stinks, but that's what happens now, I guess.
The Colts rebounded nicely today. They were able to hold on to win. I know the Texans were kind of giving it away to them at the end with their decisions in play, but
they just fumbled it. They fumbled it. Do you see J.J. Watt's face when they fumbled it?
No.
Like, they were inside the 5.
Oh, I know. I saw them get down
They
to
showed J.J. Watt then.
So.
He just like kind of like that exasperated laugh. Like not like blaming people, just like, of course. Like that's how their season has.
I'm surprised that the Texans couldn't find a partner to trade him a month ago, just because they hadn't sort of turned it around, at the beginning of November. Right. And I know he wanted to go to a contender, and maybe that's the reason. Because I'm assuming they would have wanted at least like a second-round pick.
Imagine him getting on a contender. Imagine a contender adding him.
Could you imagine going to play with his brother in Pittsburgh? Now, I don't think they needed him with Cam Hayward and who's the other 3-4 end that they have there. I'm trying a blank. Oh, Stephon Tuitt, right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't need J.J. Watt, but, like, everyone needs J.J. Watt, right? Like, can you imagine the rotation? Or moving him down inside on, like, a passing down or something?
Like, and I know he wouldn't, like, they probably would never send him to an AFC team.
You're probably right about
that,
too.
But, like, imagine if, like, the Chiefs just did it. Imagine if the Chiefs went and got him.
Yeah, you're probably right. They're probably not sending him
but,
in the AFC.
Okay, imagine, like, Seattle was active and went after guys,
What about, imagine New Orleans, him and Cam Jordan.
Oh, by the way, Cam Jordan,
I know you're going to say,
sacked Matt Ryan, has
most
sacked him
sacks
more.
A single person against a single quarterback ever. Yeah, that's insane. But the Colts rebounded after being embarrassed by Tennessee last week. Yeah. And
imagine him going, I know this is different, but imagine him going to the Rams. Just put him on the Rams.
Man. Colts win 26-20. Colts improved to 8-4. So Miami got the win today, which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
They didn't look good doing it, which this is... I tried to keep back my expectations because I know they're still early. They've gotten better than a lot of people thought they would. And they were doing it in a way that wasn't sustainable. So they got caught against Denver, which sucks, 2 weeks ago. No, 2 games ago, or really 3 games ago now. And they beat the Jets last week. It wasn't dominant, but they did it. But the Jets have been playing better.
Oh, the Jets are getting better.
I should be happy about that. They won, 24-3 or something like that. Today, they gave up one giant play to Tyler Boyd.
On my bench. But I benched him for David Montgomery, who outscored him. So, like, that was okay.
He had a good game. But, like, I just worry. I'm like, man, if Burrow was in, would that game have been a lot closer or a loss? Like, that's what concerns me, especially because it was in Miami. The Dolphins' offense just couldn't do anything again with Tua.
Right.
Now, I mean, they're beat up at running back. Like, literally... Myles Gaskin was activated after missing a month, and he was the only healthy running back they had. I think he carried every play that a running back got he got because Salvin Ahmed was out, DeAndre Washington was out, I'm missing Matt Breida was out. Like, they were down to Patrick Laird, who had fumbled last week, and I don't even know if he dressed. They didn't dress my boy Malcolm Perry from Navy.
Right.
He was scratched this week, but I don't want to make excuses. I'm happy that they're off to their best start since 2003. They're 8-4, which is
they
crazy.
They didn't tie the Bengals. I mean, hey,
they did not tie the Bengals. No, they didn't tie the Bengals. But I don't know. I was feeling really good in the weeks leading up to the Denver game, and now the last 3 weeks, even though they're 2-1 in those 3 games, it just makes me mad because they are better than Denver. Like, they are better than the Broncos.
Yeah.
But they couldn't put it together and do it.
Right.
I don't want them to be relying on defense, special teams, and playing at home.
They lost to Denver. They beat the Rams.
Right.
They beat the Rams.
They beat the 49ers, who were favored to beat the Bills, apparently. They destroyed the 49ers, I should say, in San Francisco when they were still playing games in San Francisco. But I'm going to find out really quickly if this team is any good or it's just all smoke and mirrors and good schemes that they just don't have enough on offense, because they play the Chiefs next week.
Ooh.
At home. It is in Miami, so that'll help a little bit. But Miami's not going to score more than 23 points with the way the offense is functioning. They got 19 against the Bengals today. If they can't hold Kansas City to 20 or fewer, they're not going to win. And I fully expect Kansas City to have 21 points in the first quarter next week. So I don't see it happening. I know there was one of the talking heads from one of the networks was saying how he thinks Miami's going to upset the Chiefs in Week 14. Look, dude, I'm all about that. I would love to see that, because that would send shockwaves around the NFL for the people who aren't paying attention. Right. But it's not happening. Right. It's not happening.
You know what? And I just thought of this too. Like, man, the Colts hanging on. That's another good one for you, because that's another loss for Houston.
Oh, I know. I did want to mention that. I forgot. I'm glad you brought it up. When the Dolphins win and the Texans lose, it's a good day for me.
Yes.
Because even though Miami's ruining their own draft pick, the Texans are still getting them possibly one in the top 10. Right. So them losing today was a big one. I need them to keep losing.
Now, we stay up through the first round anyway, but you may end up having to stay up pretty darn late.
I know, you're right. I might have to use a vacation day.
You're going to have to be paying more attention later. Like, I know we stay up for it, but, like, you're going to have to, like, usually, let's be honest, like, usually you're, the first hour and a half, you've got your Dolphins pick. Like, you're just kind of following along.
Like, I'm done. I'm just where are the Penn Staters going?
I might get my Eagles one in the first hour this year.
We might have role reversal coming up. We'll see. But, I mean, I'll still have to pay attention with the Texans pick.
Right,
so
exactly.
That'll be nice. That'll be nice. All right, we mentioned it already, but Minnesota tried to give the game away to Jacksonville today. The visiting Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe this game was in Minnesota.
It is. Minnesota missed 2 extra points and a field goal.
And the Vikings won 27-24.
The field goal was a long field
goal. It was a long field goal. Dan Bailey kicked it through in overtime. I was happy to see this game go to overtime because it meant Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Robinson, the Jaguars running back, all continue to pile up stats for me. I don't know that Thielen did much in overtime.
The Jaguars touchdown early in the game was insane. Like, it bounced
the one to Chenault.
Yes.
That was. I texted you immediately. I was like, "Did you just see that touchdown?" Yeah, it was thrown by Glennon and deflected once or twice, maybe. Like just slight deflection, slight misdirection of the ball, but it landed in the breadbasket of Chenault in the end zone. And the Vikings defenders could not believe it.
There were a few times this weekend where we texted each other immediately after a play, and it was like, "Oh my gosh." Maybe my favorite was when Penn State stopped Rutgers on 4th down.
Yes.
About 5 yards short of the first down.
Oh, I'm pulling that up.
And at the top, the wide receiver signals first down.
Yeah, I'm pulling that up because it was great. Because I saw it, and I was like, did I just see that? And I was like, I have DVR, I could rewind. I was like, nah. And then you texted me. I was like, I have to rewind and see what just happened. So let me see if I can pull it up. Because I then recorded it because I was like, I got to send this one out. It's too good.
Yeah.
So too good. Here it is. Let's pull this bad boy up. Can we get some full screen? Oh yeah, here we go. Let's transition this over. So set it up. So this is fourth. What were they, like
Maybe
fourth and
7,
5,
8?
6, 7,
Yeah.
something like that, and they gained like 3 yards.
Yeah,
They gained like 3 yards.
It was not close. It was not like I'll stretch out
here
the
we
ball.
go.
And get the
First down. No.
What's great is he turns around and looks and it's like, oh no.
He is he looking at the one behind him?
I think so.
But then you see the ref walking 3 yards in front of him. I like how it just keeps looping. I'll just keep going. So yeah, that Rutgers wide receiver. Sorry, bud. That was not a first down. Not even close to a first down. But yeah, you and I noticed it, and you're like, tell me you saw the receiver pointing first down when he was, 4 yards short? 4 yards. 4 yards short. Oh, that's Rutgers for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was good to beat them.
Yes.
Obviously Ohio State and Michigan are the two big ones. But in terms of Big Ten teams that you like to beat, that don't matter usually, in at least historical perspective, it's Rutgers and Maryland, and we didn't get the Maryland one this year, which really is upsetting, but we got the Rutgers one, so it's all good. It's all good. I know this is just like salt into the wound, but Justin Jefferson, 5th game with 100 or more receiving yards, which is a rookie record for the Vikings. And remember, they had a pretty good receiver play his rookie year there about 24 years ago, whenever that was, 22 years ago. And Randy Moss, apparently unable to do that as a rookie.
Yeah.
So Justin Jefferson, man, looking good. They're not missing Stephon Diggs in that offense with Thielen, Jefferson, Cook.
Now
Cousins just needs to keep it going.
Rager made a couple big plays today.
He did. It's not an anti-Rager sentiment from any of us.
No.
It's just look at what they passed on. Like, and maybe Rager will end up having a better career. We don't know. It's not even 1 year into it. But Jefferson's looking great, and obviously we see what DK Metcalf is doing in Seattle.
Right.
Whereas J-Jaw...
The problem with the Jefferson Rager conversation is you have all of these others. Like, you have every other one over the last however many years. Like, I saw a thing this week that basically said, like, over the last, 5 years of the draft, when you look at, analytics that retroactively evaluate drafts, Howie Roseman and the Eagles are amongst the bottom handful of teams in every one of the every one of those metrics. That's
unacceptable.
Tip of the iceberg problems right there. But we talked about it before, and I will talk about it again in a little bit, I'm sure. But.
So Denver at Kansas City is still 3-3 here. Are we nearing the end of the second or middle of the second quarter? But Denver's driving and is closing in on the end zone. They're
I feel
first and goal from the 7.
I'm telling you, Denver's better than the record is. I'm not saying they're a great team, but I feel like
they just scored a touchdown.
They're relatively close.
It looked like they scored a touchdown. He's inches away. If he wasn't in, he's inches away.
But look at the weapons they have on offense.
Are you talking about Denver?
Denver.
Yeah, it's
Philip Lindsay at running back.
And Gordon.
Right.
Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. Then you have your receivers. We got a couple Penn State guys out there.
Yeah, who are active.
Yeah. Deshaun and KJ.
Right. Yeah, and they get them the ball a lot. Relatively speaking, a lot.
And
I guess
Cortland
it's hard for me to kind of put it in perspective because not only do the Eagles have very few playmakers, they don't ever get their playmakers the ball. So it's hard. When I see teams draft guys with talent and then get them the ball, it's hard for me to recognize what exactly is going on.
Yeah. So the next game was Raiders-Jets in New York. After Las Vegas was embarrassed by Atlanta last week, there's no way I thought Las Vegas was going to lose to the Jets.
No, I didn't think they were going to lose.
Didn't.
But I was kind of, and I knew I picked the Oakland to win.
Las Vegas.
Yeah. No, I picked Oakland.
You picked Oakland.
You're like, let me go in and remove that.
Let me change that for you.
But I picked the Raiders to win. I was hoping the Jets would win, just because.
I was hoping the Jets to win because that would be the Jets' thing to do.
And I wanted to hear just those rumblings because you started to hear them last week about last year. The Raiders started 6-5 and then finished 1-5, and then you're like, the Raiders started 6-5 this year, and then they got smoked by Atlanta.
Raiders started 6-3. The Raiders are 6-3.
So it would have been worse, and still has the potential to be worse because it was not at all convincing over the Jets today.
And they've now got a prime time Saturday night game against the Dolphins coming up in 2 weeks.
They're ready. Dolphins can take a victory lap.
3 weeks. I hope so. Because they got the Chiefs this week. They host the Chiefs, host the Patriots, at the Raiders, at the Bills. That's the Dolphins' schedule. Not easy after the way New England looked today. Now, I know it's the Chargers.
So I know that the Patriots probably would have to win out to make the playoffs. But
yeah,
we said it. We said it a couple weeks ago that we'll believe it when we see it, kind of with them that they're out.
Are they 6-6?
I think they're 6-6 now.
So yeah, they'd have to win probably their next 4, which would put them on a 6-game winning streak because I think they were 4-6.
Right. So just imagine them. I have multiple things that are all points in my head, but I'm not going to count them out until they're out.
No.
And don't get me wrong, you watch them and you're like, but I wouldn't want to play a team coached by Bill Belichick coming off of that big of a winning streak, seemingly putting it together, and then think about all the pieces they get back next year,
right?
Just from the opt-outs.
Right, that's the thing. That's the thing about the future of this.
The other part.
Denver did just score, by the way.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But just imagine if they end up with the same or better record than the Buccaneers, who are only at 7-5.
Just a few weeks ago, we were talking about, are they one of the best teams in the NFC? Are they the best team in the NFC? We were, bagging on the Packers, bagging on the Saints, bagging on the Seahawks, and talking about maybe it is Tampa Bay, and now 7-5. Like, they lost to the Bears. I don't know.
I kind of view that like the Packers last year lost to the Eagles. I'm like, oh, that's a stain on your record that I just cannot overlook.
I like to say to my dad all the time, every so often even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
That's right.
Some of these victories you never know, and that's what's going to be when the Jets get a win, because they'll get a win. Like, they're going to get a win. I don't think
it would have been perfect today because they could have won and the Jaguars could have won.
And then they could have really screwed things up for themselves. But I don't know. Yeah, it's something, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Raiders get the win, 31-28. Jets gave it away after working so hard to get your first win. You give it away in that manner. And there's that crazy stat out there that they rushed too many people is essentially what it boils down to.
Over the last 15 years, there have been like 250 plus scenarios that the Jets were facing today. The Jets are the first team and only team of all of those times over the last 15 years in the NFL.
And it's like something like 248 instances of this exact scenario. Final 15 seconds.
Right.
Winning by less than a touchdown.
Right.
There was a third qualifier. Right. It's happened a lot. 240 sometimes, I think
they rushed 6 guys.
Rushed 6 instead of 3 or 4.
And they played cover 0. They did not have any help over the top anywhere on the field. And they got burned 2 plays in a row. Carr overthrew
by an Eagles
Nelson Aguilar on the first one. And then he did not overthrow Henry Ruggs. And here's the thing. The DB bit on the double move. What are you doing? The Jets have no timeouts. Let him catch it for 10 yards.
Right.
And when he goes to run by you, tackle him.
See, their problem is they're using the Ravens quarterback at DB. It's just tough. His name was Lamar Jackson. It's a terrible joke. But as soon as I heard that's who it was, I was just like, there's 2 Lamar Jacksons in there right now. It's just confusing.
Seriously, that's the perfect example. Tackle him. Give him the 15 yards, because he wasn't 15 yards.
They would have to scramble very quickly to get another playoff.
Right.
And this all happened after the Jets had stopped the Raiders inside the 10 or 5 yard line on 4th and goal to Aguilar, I believe it was, and the Jets are all hyped up. They're going to win. Well, they don't get a first down.
The Raiders had 2 timeouts
left. The Raiders use their timeouts. They get the ball back, and then they just kind of were like, beat us. Like, literally, here, beat us.
Right. And I said to you, I don't think they were throwing the game. Like, there was no one out there trying to lose. But I honestly think they, like, called that defensive play two times in a row. And they basically were like, if we get beat, we get beat.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of last year, middle of the season, Miami at Pittsburgh on Monday night, where Brian Flores and his defensive coordinator basically called the all-out blitz, send 8, the Madden blitz, where basically you have 2 cornerbacks and a safety, that's it. And Pittsburgh scored a huge touchdown. And I think that's what prompted, coincidentally, Mike Greenberg of ESPN, a huge New York Jets fan, by the way, to just blast Miami and saying how they're doing a disservice to the players and they're making a mockery of the NFL just because they're clearly tanking and not even trying. Oh, how the turntables. How the turntables. So, yeah, Jets Raiders, that was something to how the way that game ended. We got a few more games I just want to run through quickly. It was an exciting game in Nashville between the Browns and Titans, and like I mentioned when I talked about the weekly picks earlier, I was all in on Tennessee this week because
Tennessee looked like they had their mojo back.
Right, and I don't think Cleveland's that good.
Yeah.
I mean, they just made me look foolish now. Now, they tried to give this game away, too, and I texted you about Scott Hansen, who, congratulations on 200 episodes of NFL
incredible.
Red Zone. NFL Red Zone is amazing. I look forward to that every Sunday for 17 weeks. 200th episode of the program today, and Scott Hansen is awesome. But he's saying with how much, there was like 90 seconds left or something like that. The Titans were down by two scores, but they had the ball inside the red zone, inside the 10, I think. And he's saying, like, this is a Browns win already. And I text you, I'm like, playing the Browns, having the ball, and just needing a score and then an onside recovery, there's plenty of time for them to do that against the Browns.
Well, did you see...
And he came back later and was like, maybe I spoke too soon because they scored and were attempting an onside kick. They didn't get the onside kick. Then it was over.
I saw a thing. It was one of the Alabama state championships this weekend. It was just one of those things going around on social media.
Not the Texas one where the guy ripped the ref?
No. This one, the team was down 9 with like 18 seconds left.
Down 9.
Throw a bomb and score.
Okay. Did they kick the extra point? Yeah.
Kick the extra point.
So they're down 2.
Recover the onside kick and kick a long field goal to win it. Like, it wasn't like a 60-something. They got like another play, I think, but like they end up winning. They were down.
They're down 9 with 18 to play, and they win.
And they won by 1. The state championship.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is
and
crazy.
it was on Alabama's field. Like the big A is there. Like, yeah,
thing of dreams or thing of nightmares. Like if you lose that game,
right.
But that's why, like, no matter what team it doesn't matter if it's Wilson, Penn State, Miami, Navy. I want to be up,
BYU.
Yeah,
another heartbreaker.
I want to be up 3 scores near the end of the game. 2 scores is not enough because you get one and they recover the onside kick right away. You're like, there's 2
I don't know
scores.
why people don't talk about it more in other sports, but in hockey, you hear people all the time say a 2-goal lead is like the most dangerous lead because
I want 3 possessions, 3 scores, 3 goals. Like in basketball, I want to be up by at least 9.
Right.
At least 9.
Right.
I actually prefer 10, 11, 12,
I look at 13 because it's highly unlikely that I'll foul them on the made 3-pointer 3 straight times.
But if I do and they make it, I'm still up by 1. No, exactly.
Right. In football, I look for 17.
17. I want to be up 17 with like 90 seconds to play. If I'm not, I'm like, oh God. I'm just sitting there like, just rocking.
Right.
They're not going to win.
In baseball, it needs to be 5 because a grand slam.
Yeah, because that can turn real quick.
Right.
But that's like most places 3 possession. But yeah, baseball is an interesting one because you can get 4 with one swing of a bat. So. Baseball's 5. Football, like you said, I think 17 is the
people are like, oh, 14.
Net.
No, not even
you
close.
can lose on 2 possessions with 14.
16 is okay because I can't lose on 2 possessions.
Right. At worst, we're into overtime. Right. But no, 17. Yeah, basketball, like at a minimum 9. But honestly, like you said, I'm thinking more like 11 or 12. Because, I mean, we've seen, there's that very famous one.
With Reggie Miller
for Indiana scores like, what does he score? Like 12 points in like 30 seconds or something. Like, it's something absurd. Yeah. Absolutely absurd. So, no lead is safe, is what I'm saying.
Right, yeah. This is what sports has done to us.
Stressful.
This is what sports has done to us.
I want to be up by 5 if it's the Phillies, 3 if it's the Flyers. 12 if it's the Sixers, and 17 if it's the Dolphins. Anything less than that, I'm sitting there thinking, how are they going to lose?
Yes.
How are they going to lose?
Yep.
So the Rams beat the Cardinals today, 38-28. The Rams are now in control pretty handily in the NFC West.
I got that one.
I did too. Yeah. I did too. Things have changed. I have been on Arizona. We've been on Arizona for a while.
I still think they're headed in the right direction. They just don't have it right now.
Right.
They have the makings of a young team right now, which at areas they're young and at areas they're not. But like they'll be okay. The Rams are playing really well right now.
This is the biggest upset of the day. The Giants beat the Seahawks, and that was in Seattle.
What is going on with
17-12. Now the Seattle was up 5-0. 5-0. I was thinking like this is a Penn State Iowa game.
Right. A good safe lead if I'm rooting for the Phillies.
Right, exactly. 5-0 at halftime. They lose 17-12. The Seahawks, who had been rolling on offense but terrible on defense, have kind of almost switched positions now, where the defense has gotten better, but the offense has regressed.
Right, the offense is not doing well at all right now.
And credit to Joe Judge and the Giants team without Barkley and your quarterback. Now, maybe you're not high on Daniel Jones, but they did it with Colt McCoy, who 2 weeks ago I said to you, I was like, I didn't even know he was still in the league.
Right.
And they're upsetting Seattle at home, and it drops the Seahawks to 8-4, who even at 8-4, they have not looked good of late.
No.
Not looked good.
No.
So even though they're tied with the Rams, like the Rams have all the momentum there. I say after they lost to San Francisco last week. So it's a week-by-week league. It's up and down, and Seattle could look amazing next week, and we'll see.
Right, the thing is, there is still enough time for Seattle to get right, but teams are getting pressure on Russell Wilson now, and like he is mobile, but he doesn't want to. Like people are containing him and getting pressure, and that causes problems. Also, like, he threw a pick today that went off of Chris Carson's face mask. Like,
that's not his fault.
Right, I know. That's one of those where, like, that should be an interception should also be a stat for the receiver. And, like,
that
doesn't have to count on every single one, but it should. Like, it should be there for, like, one like that where you hit him in the face mask. Like, I don't know what you want.
I'm not sure where
anyone to do with that.
Right. So the Giants have won 4 in a row. They're the opposite of the Bears. They're 5-7 and now absolutely in control in the NFC East.
Yeah.
Washington and Dallas haven't played yet, so they could apply some pressure from behind there.
Yeah, but we'd be stunned if Washington won this week, right? Like, even with the Steelers' crazy situation, like...
you're right. No, you're right. But, I mean, the Giants going to be a playoff team?
I don't know. Like, I still think Dallas wins it.
I think so?
I still do.
It'll be interesting, but the Giants are 5-7 and for now in first place in the NFC East with that victory over Seattle. Patriots, we mentioned, blanked the Chargers in LA, 45-0. This one surprised me. Not that New England won, because I picked New England to win. It just surprised me how awful the Chargers looked and how good New England looked. The Chargers, I don't know. They don't have it. They dropped to 3-9. New England improves to 6-6, but the Chargers have not impressed me. I thought they'd be better. Herbert has looked really good. He didn't have a great game today, but he looks like the future there. Unfortunately, the head coach and coaching staff, most of them are probably going to be gone. They need something there. They need improvement, especially defensively. Despite having Joey Bosa, they can't do much else right out in LA with the Chargers. And New England, I mean, putting up 45 points is nothing to sneeze at. So.
Well, and they were doing it like old New England ways. Like, I don't mean that like with the running the ball, but they were able to run it. Cam Newton hit on some passes. Like, my dad watching today, he's like, everything he throws is like 100 miles an hour. I'm like, yes. Like, I know when people talk about, maybe his shoulder's still not right. Maybe it'll never like completely be right again. It's not arm strength that's the issue. Like, when you're watching it, he still has a cannon. He looks like if you were to give like a college like football, like a college kid, like a youth league football. Like his hands are massive and he just rockets the ball.
Right.
But I'm telling you, like not a problem for my team this year at all, no matter what. And my team would be in the NFC, so it wouldn't be a problem. I would love for it to be a problem anyway. But like, I'll believe the Patriots are out of it when
I know
they are mathematically eliminated.
Yep.
Because I'm like, man, what if they get it right? And I'll be honest, I'm here for the conversation of if they get an equal or better record than the Bucks and are able to. Now, I don't know that they're actually going to be able to pull it off, but man, like after this beginning of the year when everybody was ripping Belichick and being like, oh, it was clearly all Brady and it's all Brady and it's all Brady, and then for them to have the same record, like
if that happens, yeah, they're only a game back.
Right, like you look at like even without that, even if they don't catch them, if they're within a game or two, look at what Belichick did it with versus what Brady has done it with.
Oh my gosh!
And all the chirps this week about how like Arians isn't doing him any service, or he's doing him a disservice and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, so basically everyone is agreeing that Tom Brady is a system quarterback.
Yeah, I feel like we've always been in the camp. While we don't sell Brady short by any stretch of the imagination, we like to poke fun, for sure, and try to take things away from him in a joking manner. But we understand that he's one of the best to ever do it. However, I think both of us, it may have wavered a little bit at times during this year, but I think both of us credit Belichick with more of New England's dominance than Brady.
Absolutely.
Now, would he have done it without Brady? In that fashion, I don't know. You needed both. They had to be there.
Right.
It was a symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
You needed both of them. But I think at the end of the day, and we could see it already this season, I think Belichick is going to prove that he was slightly more important than Brady was to the Patriots dynasty, which may not be over. I don't know. We'll see. They're probably not going to win the division this year. I don't see Buffalo and Miami both faltering that much. I would see Miami faltering before Buffalo, but I think there's too much of a lead. There's a 2-game lead with 4 weeks to play.
Like,
it could
Buffalo
still
and
happen.
New England play in 2
They
weeks.
all three of them still play.
Right. So like, how nuts would it be if they beat Buffalo in that game? I'm not saying even to win the division, but just like if they win some of these games down the stretch, it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, so even if they don't win all 4, if they get to 9 wins with that team, you're not convincing me, unless Brady like and them win out, and do something in the playoffs, you're not convincing me that was better or more successful than what Belichick did.
I mean, if you're okay with it, I'm going to give you a reprieve this week on talking the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Only because we're running out of time. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, if we could go on for another half an hour just to talk about the Eagles, who lost today to the Packers at Lambeau, 30-16. Philadelphia is now 3-8-1. Green Bay improves to 9-3, just a game back of the Saints for the NFC number 1 seed. There's a lot to not like again in that performance. The offensive game plan and play calling still leaves a lot to be desired.
The only thing I'll say is, and I said this to you in a text, is if Carson Wentz is broken, and I don't know that he is, but if he is, the Eagles broke him. It's not the other way around. It's not Wentz is hurting the Eagles. The Eagles have hurt Wentz. If I'm him, and I know it's a lot more complicated than that, especially due to the money and stuff, but I'm him, I want out. Like I want out. I know you signed the extension. I know you have all that stuff, but I want out. I want a fresh start somewhere. They might
mutually get to that point.
Right.
They're not going to get anything in a trade because of the contract and his play of late. Maybe a mid-round pick, like a 4th or 5th that maybe could move up to a 3rd based on incentives. But they're not going to get a lot for him.
No.
And I texted you this today. I said, are the Eagles going to Drew Brees Carson Wentz? Like, are they going to move on from him?
See, I think the money makes it almost impossible to do that this year. Like, I don't see him doing it because he's going to count for almost $60 million of the cap next year, even if they trade him, because of the way the structure is. Like, but there are so many problems with the Eagles, so many problems. And I've talked about the play calling and those things. I talked about it last week, gave you the specifics about how they never roll him out.
Still haven't.
And guess what they did? Like the first 3 passes they did for Jalen Hurts, they roll him out.
Also gave Miles Sanders a bunch of carries the first drive, and then he disappeared once again. They didn't call any running plays while Carson was in.
And those are the reasons why I know we said we weren't getting into the Eagles, but when people are like, how can you fire a coach who won a Super Bowl 3 years ago? Because the problems aren't like bad luck. Like the injuries, okay, somewhat. But like when the problems are rooted in decisions, and repeated decisions, I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't know.
So, one of our mutual friends, acquaintances, and actually a former player and student of ours, Dustin Miller, tweeted out in the last few weeks that the Indianapolis Colts will win the Super Bowl in 2023, coached by Frank Reich, featuring Carson Wentz and Zach Ertz, because Philadelphia, the organization, and a lot of the fans are attempting to push them out the door. And he thinks they're both going to land in Indianapolis after Phillip Rivers, retires. Wentz takes over there. Ertz shows up with him because they're kind of pushing him out there too. And I just thought, I was like, it could absolutely happen.
Oh, it could absolutely happen. Absolutely.
Right now, I think nearly everyone would pick Frank Reich over Doug Peterson.
Oh, in a heartbeat. If the Eagles could trade
coach for coach.
I was going to say not this year's first round pick. But if the Eagles could trade for Frank Reich, I'd do it. Not this year's because it's going to be way too high.
So we will lead next week, episode 319 on Sunday, December 13th. We'll lead with the Eagles game.
Wonderful.
Just so that we can talk about the Philadelphia football team, because
we'll
we didn't get to tonight.
Jalen Hurts is probably going to start next week.
Oh, we'll have a lot to talk about then, because we can obviously talk about his first career start, should that happen. I think a lot of people think it's going to happen, but obviously that has not been announced yet. Doug said he has to review a whole bunch of things, including injuries and film, obviously. But I feel like it's trending in that direction, because why do you give him the time that he did today? Not just a relief role like Taysom Hill or Sean Clifford and Will Levis type of thing. This was we need to see what you can do. So we'll lead with the Eagles. Who do they play next week? The Saints. The Eagles Saints.
Yeah.
So Eagles Saints next week. We'll see what happens there. We'll lead the show with all kinds of talk about the Eagles, since we didn't get to touch on them as much this week as we would have liked. And like I said, it'll be an interesting week for my Dolphins too, playing the Chiefs.
Could be a rough week for us.
This is what I hate. I wanted the Chiefs to destroy the Broncos today, and they may still do it.
Right.
But I hate playing a team coming off a loss that they shouldn't have had, because to me that always means that they're hyper-focused and out to disprove everyone that's trashing them. So I need the Chiefs to uncork on the Broncos in the second half, so that I can feel going in that maybe Miami won't lose by 35. So that's where I'm at.
It'll be interesting, because the Chiefs can't afford a second loss if they want the bye. Because the Steelers may lose one, but I don't know that. And there, it will be interesting to see who has the tiebreakers and things like that.
Right. So
it may depend on who that loss comes to for the Steelers. But
Denver is up 10-6, and they're nearing halftime. So
I just saw that, and I had to laugh, because they're up 10-6 with the ball in Chiefs territory. I'd like the 44. Win probability is still 62% for the Chiefs.
Yes, that's where we're at. So, all right, that's it, everyone. The end of episode 318 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff show. We'll be back in 1 week's time to talk about all the action in Week 14 of the Professional Football League. And we'll lead with the Eagles, and I'm sure we'll at some point talk Dolphins, Chiefs, and everything else in between. Maybe we'll be will we have a normal week of football? Will we have Thursday, Sunday, Monday? Is
awesome.
that where we're trending? Think so?
Awesome.
Maybe.
I wouldn't bank on it, but
right. I'm not a betting man. We'll bring Paul on again for that.
Yeah.
He can give us the prop bets of when the NFL games are going to play, if that's a thing.
I'm sure it's a thing somewhere.
Somewhere, someone's got that out there. So, all right, that's it for us. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back again next week.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. Woo-hoo! You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as The Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.